The alarm bells rang through every corridor of Galactic Research Station Meridian. Red lights flashed on the walls as creatures from dozens of different worlds scrambled to emergency stations. Something terrible had happened, and everyone could feel it in the air. Dr. Elena Martinez ran down the main hallway, her lab coat flying behind her. She was the head of xenobiology on the station, which meant she studied alien life forms. Right now she wished she had picked a safer job. The emergency message had been brief but terrifying. A research ship belonging to the insectoid Vexthai had sent out a distress call before going silent. 6 creatures had escaped from their containment cells and were loose somewhere in the system. Elena reached the command center where Captain Steve Rodriguez was already waiting. His human transport ship, the Endeavor, had been docked at the station for routine supplies when the crisis began. Around them, representatives from a dozen alien species talked in worried voices. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Elena asked, catching her breath. Commander Jake Sullivan, the station's security chief, pulled up a holographic display. The image showed a creature that made Elena's blood run cold. It stood 8 feet tall with silver and black fur that seemed to shimmer in the light. Its claws looked like they were made of crystal, sharp enough to cut through metal. But the most frightening thing was its eyes. They glowed with an intelligence that seemed almost human. "These are called Zarathi Alpha Cubs," Jake explained. "The Vexthai found them on an unexplored planet and brought them here for study. According to their reports, these things are incredibly dangerous. They're strong enough to tear through steel doors, fast enough to dodge laser fire, and smart enough to use tools." Dr. Klicktar, the lead Vexthai researcher, clicked his mandibles nervously. His insect-like body shook as he spoke. "We thought we had them secured. The containment fields were military grade, but they worked together, somehow coordinated their escape. 3 of my team are dead. Many more are injured." Elena studied the footage from the Vexthai ship. The cubs moved with deadly grace, but something bothered her about what she was seeing. "How old are these creatures?" "We estimate they are juveniles," Dr. Klicktar replied. "Perhaps equivalent to your human teenagers. But do not let that fool you. They are killers." Ambassador Velnoth, a tall reptilian from the Saurian delegation, hissed softly. "My people have dealt with dangerous predators before. These creatures must be destroyed before they can reach populated areas." "We can't just kill them," Elena protested. "They're an unknown species. Think of what we could learn." "Learn?" Commander Sullivan laughed bitterly. "These things have already proven they can't be contained. Every attempt to recapture them has failed. The Vexthai tried everything: sleep gas, energy nets, sonic barriers. Nothing worked." Just then, Danny Blake entered the command center. He was a maintenance worker on the station, a quiet man in his 30s who usually kept to himself. Most people barely noticed him as he went about his daily tasks of fixing broken equipment and keeping the station running. He had been called to help prepare emergency barriers. "Excuse me," Danny said politely, "but I couldn't help overhearing. You said these are cubs, right?" "Like young ones?" Ambassador Velnoth turned his cold reptilian gaze on the human. "Yes, but what does that matter? Young predators are often more dangerous than adults. They have not yet learned restraint." Danny watched the security footage replay on the main screen. The cubs moved together, always staying close to each other. When one was threatened, the others immediately came to help. "They don't look like they're hunting," he said quietly. "They look scared." "Scared?" Dr. Klicktar's voice rose to a sharp whistle. "These creatures killed 3 trained researchers." "Yeah, but look at how they move." Danny pointed at the screen. "They're not stalking or hunting. They're huddled together, moving as a group. That's what scared kids do. They stick together when they're in a strange place." Elena found herself looking at the footage with new eyes. Danny was right. The cubs weren't acting like predators on the hunt. They were acting defensive, protective of each other. "It doesn't matter how they're acting," Commander Sullivan said firmly. "What matters is that they're dangerous and they need to be stopped. I'm organizing security teams from all the major species on the station. We'll use heavy tranquilizers and containment fields." "What if that makes them more scared?" Danny asked. "What if they're just confused and lost?" Captain Rodriguez placed a hand on Danny's shoulder. "I appreciate your concern, but this isn't something maintenance can handle. These creatures have already proven they can kill." Danny nodded but didn't look convinced. He had raised his sister's 3 kids after she died in a transport accident 5 years ago. He knew how children behaved when they were frightened and alone. These cubs, despite their size and claws, were showing all the same signs. The meeting continued for another hour as the various species debated strategy. The Saurians wanted to use military force. The Vexthi insisted on using their advanced technology. The other alien representatives each had their own ideas about how to handle the situation. But Danny barely listened. He kept watching the security footage, seeing things that the others missed. The way the cubs groomed each other when they thought they were safe. How they took turns keeping watch while the others rested. The way they shared food that they had found. These weren't vicious killers. They were frightened children who had been torn away from everything they knew and were doing their best to survive. As the meeting broke up and the various teams prepared for their assault, Danny made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't going to wait for the military teams with their weapons and containment fields. He was going to try a different approach. After all, how different could alien cubs be from human children? They were probably just scared, hungry, and wanting to go home. Maybe what they needed wasn't force or fancy technology. Maybe they just needed someone to treat them with kindness. Danny had no idea that his simple maintenance worker's intuition was about to solve a crisis that had stumped some of the galaxy's greatest minds. While the security teams prepared their weapons and equipment, Danny Blake walked quietly through the lower levels of the station. He carried a simple toolkit and a bag of emergency food rations. His supervisor, Lisa Chen, had specifically ordered him to stay away from the dangerous areas, but Danny had other plans. The lower levels were darker than usual. Most of the lighting had been damaged during the Cubs' initial escape from the docking bay. Emergency power cast strange shadows on the walls. Danny moved carefully, listening for any sounds that might tell him where the Cubs were hiding. He found signs of them everywhere. Claw marks on the metal walls. Deep gouges that showed just how strong these creatures were. A ventilation grate had been torn open, the thick metal bent like paper. In one corridor, he found what looked like a nest made from torn fabric and salvaged materials. Danny knelt down and examined the makeshift bed. It was big enough for all 6 cubs to sleep together. They had arranged pieces of soft material in the center and built walls around the edges for protection. It reminded him of the pillow forts his nephew used to build when he was scared of thunderstorms. Poor kids, Danny whispered to himself. You're just trying to feel safe. A soft sound made him freeze, breathing, slow and careful, coming from somewhere nearby. Danny looked around and spotted a maintenance shaft that had been forced open. The metal cover lay on the ground, twisted and bent. Most people would have called for backup at that point. The smart thing would have been to retreat and let the trained security teams handle it. But Danny had spent 5 years learning how to approach frightened children, and he knew that sometimes the gentle approach worked better than force. He sat down cross-legged on the floor near the opening and opened his bag of food rations. The packages made soft crinkling sounds as he unwrapped them. He could hear movement in the shaft, but he didn't look directly at it. Instead, he started talking in the same calm voice he had used with his sister's kids. "Hey there," he said softly. "I know you're scared. This place is probably really strange and confusing. I brought some food if you're hungry." The movement in the shaft stopped. Danny could feel eyes watching him, but he kept his gaze on the food packages. He had learned that looking directly at scared children could make them more nervous. "I'm not going to hurt you," Danny continued. "I'm just a guy who fixes things around here. My name is Danny. I bet you have names too, don't you?" A low sound came from the shaft. Not quite a growl, but not friendly either. Danny remained perfectly still. I know. You don't know if you can trust me. That's smart. You should be careful around strangers." Danny opened one of the food packages and set it on the ground halfway between himself and the shaft. "But you must be really hungry. When was the last time anyone gave you a proper meal?" Several minutes passed in silence. Then slowly, a massive paw emerged from the shaft. The claws were indeed crystal-like, catching the emergency lighting and throwing rainbow reflections on the walls. The paw was followed by a head that was larger than Danny's entire torso. The cub was even more magnificent up close. Its fur was silver with black stripes that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Its eyes were a deep blue-green color that held an intelligence Danny had rarely seen, even in humans. But what struck him most was how young it looked. Despite its size and obvious power, there was something unmistakably childlike about its face. "Hello there, beautiful," Danny said gently. "Look at you. You're amazing." The cub froze at the sound of his voice. Its eyes locked onto Danny's face, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Danny could see fear there, but also curiosity. The cub was trying to figure out what kind of creature this small, soft being was. "You're probably wondering why I'm not running away screaming, right?" Danny smiled. "Everyone else seems to think you're some kind of monster. But I don't see a monster. I see a scared kid who's far from home." The cub took a careful step forward, then another. Its nose twitched as it caught the scent of the food. Danny could see how thin it was under all that magnificent fur. These cubs hadn't been eating properly since their escape. "Go ahead," Danny encouraged. "It's okay. Take the food." The cub reached out with one careful paw and dragged the food package closer. It sniffed it thoroughly before taking a tentative bite. The reaction was immediate. The cub's eyes widened and it began eating with desperate hunger. "When's the last time anyone offered you food instead of trying to shoot you with tranquilizers?" Danny asked. "I bet the scary bug people weren't very nice to you, were they?" As if in response to his words, 5 more cubs emerged from various hiding places around the corridor. They had been watching the entire time, ready to protect their companion if the strange human proved dangerous. But seeing their friend eating peacefully, they approached cautiously. Danny felt his heart race as he found himself surrounded by 6 creatures that could tear him apart without effort. Each one was massive, powerful, and armed with claws that could cut through steel. But as he looked into their eyes, all he saw were frightened children. "Wow, all of you are beautiful," he said, opening more food packages. "Here, there's plenty for everyone. You don't have to fight over it." The cubs exchanged glances with each other, and Danny got the strangest feeling that they were communicating somehow. After a moment, they all settled down around him in a loose circle and began to eat. "There we go," Danny said with satisfaction. "Much better. You know, you guys remind me of my nephew when he was little. He used to hide under the bed when he was scared, just like you were hiding in that shaft." One of the cubs, slightly smaller than the others, crept closer to Danny. It seemed bolder than its siblings, more curious about this strange creature who offered food and kind words instead of weapons and cages. "You're a brave one, aren't you?" Danny said to the smaller cub. "Probably the leader of your little group. I bet you're the one who figured out how to escape from those containers." The cub tilted its head at the sound of his voice. Then, to Danny's amazement, it made a soft sound back. Not quite a purr, not quite a chirp, but something almost musical. The other cubs looked up from their food and made similar sounds. "Are you trying to talk to me?" Danny asked, delighted. "I wish I could understand what you're saying, but I think I get the general idea. You're saying thank you, aren't you?" The cubs continued their soft musical conversation, and Danny found himself laughing. "You know what? You guys aren't vicious at all. You're just good babies who got lost. That's what you are. Good babies." The first cub, the one he had started thinking of as Buddy, moved even closer. It sniffed Danny's hand carefully, then, in a gesture that made Danny's eyes water with emotion, gently touched his palm with its nose. "Yeah," Danny whispered. "I think we're going to be friends." Far above them, security teams prepared for battle against creatures they saw as deadly predators. But down in the lower levels, a simple maintenance worker had just made first contact with 6 frightened children, who only needed someone to see them as they truly were. News of Danny's breakthrough spread through the station like wildfire. The security teams had been preparing for a military operation when one of the maintenance supervisors noticed that Danny Blake was missing from his assigned post. When they checked the security cameras, they found footage that left everyone speechless. Dr. Elena Martinez stood in the command center, watching the live feed from the lower levels. 6 of the most dangerous creatures in known space were sitting peacefully around a human maintenance worker, eating emergency rations like domestic pets at dinner time. It defied everything she thought she knew about predator behavior. "This is impossible," Dr. Klicktar whispered, his insect eyes wide with disbelief. "Those creatures killed 3 of my researchers without hesitation. They should have torn him apart the moment he entered their territory." Commander Jake Sullivan shook his head in amazement. "Danny's been down there for over 2 hours now. The cubs are following him around like he's their mother." On the screen, they watched Danny walking slowly through the corridors with all 6 cubs trailing behind him. The creatures moved with deadly grace, but their body language was completely different from the security footage from the Vextai ship. Instead of tense and aggressive, they seemed relaxed and curious. Captain Steve Rodriguez activated his communicator. "Danny, can you hear me? Are you all right down there?" Danny's voice came through clearly, calm and cheerful. "Hey, Captain. Yeah, I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. These guys are amazing once you get to know them. Danny, what you're doing is incredibly dangerous, Dr. Martinez said. Those creatures could kill you without warning. No, they couldn't, Danny replied with absolute certainty. Well, I mean, physically they could, but they won't. They're not killers, Dr. Martinez, they're kids. Scared, confused kids who got taken from their family. Ambassador Velnoth hissed in frustration. Impossible. Predators do not form attachments to prey species. But that's just it. Danny's voice came through the speakers. I don't think they see me as prey. I think they see me as something else. Maybe a friend or maybe even family. As if to prove his point, one of the cubs on screen gently bumped its massive head against Danny's shoulder. Danny reached up and scratched behind what looked like ears, and the creature made a sound that was unmistakably happy. Dr. Elena Martinez found herself leaning forward, fascinated despite her concern. Danny, are they communicating with you? We're seeing some unusual vocalizations. Oh yeah, they talk all the time, Danny said. I can't understand the words, but I'm getting pretty good at reading their body language. Like right now, Buddy here is telling the others about something he found earlier. Buddy? Commander Sullivan asked. That's what I'm calling the first one I met. The others are Sweetie, Princess, Trouble, Gentle, and Little Boss. Little Boss is definitely the leader of the group, even though she's the smallest. The alien representatives in the command center exchanged bewildered looks. A human had given pet names to creatures that their species considered deadly threats, and somehow it was working. Dr. Clicktar clicked his mandibles nervously. This is unprecedented. In all our studies, we never achieved anything close to this level of communication. What kind of studies were you doing? Danny asked, and there was a sharp edge to his voice that hadn't been there before. The Vexti researcher hesitated. Standard xenobiological protocols. Behavioral observation, intelligence testing, physical examination? You mean you kept them in cages and poked at them? Danny said flatly. No wonder they were aggressive. How would you feel if someone locked you up and ran experiments on you? An uncomfortable silence fell over the command center. Finally, Dr. Martinez spoke up. Danny, we need to understand what's happening. Are you safe to continue contact? I'm safer down here than anywhere else on the station, Danny replied. These guys are incredibly protective. A few minutes ago, a maintenance drone malfunctioned and started sparking near me. All 6 cubs immediately positioned themselves between me and the potential threat. They're not dangerous to me at all. If anything, they're trying to protect me. Amy Patterson, the station's communications officer, had been quietly monitoring all frequencies. Dr. Martinez, she said urgently, I'm picking up something on the long-range sensors. A large ship just entered the outer system. It's not responding to hails, but it's definitely heading this way. Captain Rodriguez moved to the sensor station. How large are we talking? Massive, Amy replied, her face pale. Easily 10 times the size of any ship in our database. And it's moving fast, faster than should be possible for something that big. Dr. Elena Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. Do you think it's connected to the cubs? Danny? Commander Sullivan called into the communicator. We need you to get those cubs back to a secure area. We may have company coming. What kind of company? Danny asked. Before anyone could answer, Little Boss, the smallest cub, suddenly became agitated. She began making urgent sounds, and the other cubs immediately gathered around her. Their musical chatter became rapid and excited. Whoa, they're really worked up about something, Danny reported. Little Boss is showing me some kind of images in my mind. I think she's telepathic. I'm seeing a big ship, and there are adult versions of the cubs. They look just like these guys, but much bigger. The command center erupted in worried voices. If the cubs were this dangerous, what would the adults be like? Danny, you need to get out of there now, Captain Rodriguez ordered. If adult versions of those creatures are coming, the entire station could be in danger. No, wait, Danny said, and they could hear the excitement in his voice. The cubs aren't scared of the ship. They're happy, really happy. Little Boss is practically bouncing with joy. I think those are their parents coming to find them. Dr. Martinez stared at the security monitor in disbelief. The 6 cubs were indeed showing behavior that looked remarkably like excitement and anticipation. They kept looking up at the ceiling as if they could sense the approaching ship through the station's hull. Their parents, she whispered. Of course. They're not just random predators. They're children who got separated from their family. This changes everything, Ambassador Velnoth said grimly. If adult Zarathi are coming here, we need to prepare for the possibility of conflict. They will want their young back, and they may not care who they have to go through to get them. Danny's voice came through the communicator again, calmer now. Actually, I think this might be our chance to make this right. These cubs trust me. Maybe I can help negotiate with their parents. Show them that we're not enemies. Absolutely not, Commander Sullivan said firmly. You're a maintenance worker, not a diplomat. Adult predators of this species could kill you before you could say hello. Maybe, Danny admitted, but right now I'm the only person these cubs trust. If we want to avoid a fight, we're going to need that trust. As the massive alien ship continued its approach toward Meridian Station, everyone realized that the next few hours would determine whether first contact with the Zarathi would end in friendship or disaster. And somehow the fate of everyone on the station now rested in the hands of a maintenance worker who had simply decided to treat 6 frightened children with kindness. The cubs gathered closer around Danny, their musical voices rising in what sounded almost like a song. They knew their family was coming, and they weren't afraid anymore. They had found a friend among the stars, someone who saw them not as monsters but as exactly what they were, good babies who just wanted to go home. The massive alien ship filled the viewports of Meridian Station as it came to a stop just outside the station's defensive perimeter. It was unlike anything in the galactic databases, sleek and organic-looking, as if it had been grown rather than built. Strange patterns of light pulsed along its hull like a heartbeat. In the command center, tension filled the air like a thick fog. Representatives from dozens of species watched their sensors with growing alarm. The ship's energy readings were off the charts. Its weapon systems, if that's what they were, could probably destroy the station with a single shot. They're not responding to any of our communication attempts, Amy Patterson reported, her fingers dancing over her console. I've tried every frequency we know, but there's nothing but silence. Captain Rodriguez stood beside the main view screen, his jaw tight with worry. How long until they're in weapons range? Sir, they already are, Commander Sullivan replied grimly. That ship could turn us into space dust any time it wants to. Down in the lower levels, Danny Blake sat cross-legged on the floor with 6 alien cubs pressed close around him. The cubs had become increasingly excited as their family's ship approached. They made soft musical sounds and kept touching Danny gently with their massive paws as if trying to reassure him. It's okay, guys, Danny said softly, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. Your family's coming to get you. That's good, right? That's what you wanted. Little Boss, the smallest cub and apparent leader of the group, pressed her head against Danny's chest. Suddenly, images flooded his mind. Not words, but pictures and feelings transmitted directly through some kind of telepathic connection. Danny saw the cubs' homeworld, a beautiful planet with crystal forests and floating cities. He felt their confusion and terror when their world came under attack by machines they didn't understand. He experienced their parents' desperate love as they sent their children away in escape pods, hoping to save them from the destruction. Oh no, Danny whispered, understanding flooding through him. You guys aren't predators at all. You're refugees. Your whole world was destroyed and your parents sent you away to keep you safe. The cubs pressed closer to him and more images came. He saw how the Vextai had found their escape pods and captured them, thinking they were dangerous animals. He felt their fear and sadness at being separated from their family, their confusion at being studied and prodded and kept in cages. Dr. Martinez, Danny called into his communicator, his voice thick with emotion. You need to know something about these cubs. They're not what we thought they were. Danny, you need to get to a secure location immediately, Dr. Martinez replied. That ship out there could attack at any moment. No, please, listen to me, Danny insisted. These cubs showed me what happened to them. Their homeworld was destroyed. Their parents put them in escape pods to save their lives. They're not dangerous predators, they're orphaned refugees who have been through hell. Silence filled the communication channel as the implications of Danny's words sank. And Dr. Klicktar's voice came through the speakers, filled with horror. We captured refugee children? We thought we were studying dangerous predators, but they were just lost children? That's exactly what they are, Danny confirmed. And now their family has found them. But I don't think the adults are going to be very happy about how their kids have been treated. As if summoned by his words, the alien ship suddenly came to life. Streams of light shot out from its hull, not weapons but some kind of scanning beams. The entire station shuddered slightly as the beams passed through the hull, probing every corner and corridor. They're scanning for life signs, Amy reported, specifically looking for, oh no. They're looking for Zarathi life signs. They know their children are here. The cubs around Danny began making urgent sounds, their musical voices rising in what sounded like calls or signals. Little Boss touched Danny's forehead again, and he saw what she was trying to tell him. They're calling to their parents, Danny said, letting them know they're okay. But they're also trying to tell them about me, about how I helped them. Suddenly, a new voice filled the command center. It was deep and powerful, speaking in a language that sounded like musical thunder. The universal translators struggled for a moment before finding the correct patterns. Children of Zareth, the voice said, we have found you. Your pack leaders come to bring you home. Show us where you are, little ones. The cubs around Danny erupted in joyful sounds, their voices carrying clearly through the station's corridors. But they didn't move away from Danny. Instead, they seemed to be trying to include him in their response. Unknown beings who hold our young, the powerful voice continued. We sense no fear or pain in our children. This is unexpected, but be warned. If harm has come to even one of our cubs, we will tear your structure apart piece by piece. Danny, Dr. Martinez called urgently. Can you communicate with them through the cubs? Can you let them know we're not enemies? Danny looked around at the 6 magnificent creatures surrounding him. They looked back with trusting eyes, waiting for him to help bridge the gap between their species and his. I can try, Danny said. Little Boss, can you help me talk to your parents? Can you show them that we're friends? The small cub pressed her forehead against Danny's, and this time the connection was stronger than ever. Danny felt his thoughts being carried along pathways of light and energy, transmitted directly to the massive ship outside the station. The adult Zarathi on the ship suddenly fell silent. Through Little Boss, Danny could sense their shock and confusion. They had expected to find their children in cages, possibly tortured or experimented on. Instead, they found them healthy and happy, protected by a small creature who radiated nothing but love and kindness. You are not what we expected, small warm one, the voice said, and this time it was speaking directly to Danny. Our young ones sing of your kindness. They call you pack friend, protector of cubs. This is a great honor among our people. I just treated them the way any kids should be treated, Danny replied through the telepathic link, with kindness and respect. They're good babies. All of them. A sound like musical laughter filled the communication channel. Good babies. Yes, that is what they are. And you, Danny Blake of the humans, have cared for them as if they were your own young. For this, the Zarathi owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid. Around the station, the various alien species watched in amazement as first contact with a powerful new species was being handled, not by trained diplomats or military leaders, but by a maintenance worker who simply knew how to treat children with love. The cubs pressed closer to Danny, purring and chirping with contentment. They were going home to their family, but they had found something precious among the stars. A friend who saw them not as monsters or weapons or test subjects, but as exactly what they were, good babies who deserved to be loved. The main docking bay of Meridian Station had been cleared of all personnel, except for the essential diplomatic team. Security barriers hummed with energy, and every weapon system on the station was ready for action. But despite all the military preparations, everyone knew that if the adult Zarathi wanted to destroy them, there was nothing they could do to stop it. Danny Blake walked slowly down the corridor toward the docking bay, with 6 alien cubs padding silently beside him. He had refused all offers of protective gear and escorts. The cubs had made it clear through their telepathic connection that they wanted only Danny to accompany them to meet their family. Danny, are you sure about this? Dr. Elena Martinez asked through the communicator. These adult Zarathi could be 20 feet tall with claws that can cut through battleship armor. You could be walking to your death. I don't think so, Danny replied, though his voice carried a slight tremor. The cubs trust their parents, and they trust me. If I was in danger, they'd know it. Little Boss pressed against Danny's leg, projecting feelings of comfort and reassurance. Through the telepathic link, Danny could sense the massive adult Zarathi on their ship. They were indeed enormous and incredibly powerful, but their emotions toward their children were unmistakably those of loving parents. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss of equalizing air pressure. The Zarathi shuttle that emerged was a thing of beauty, looking more like a living creature than a machine. It landed with surprising gentleness for something so large. When the shuttle doors opened, Danny's breath caught in his throat. The adult Zarathi were magnificent beyond description. They stood nearly 15 feet tall, their fur shimmering with colors that had no names in human language. Their claws were indeed made of some kind of crystal, but they moved with such grace that they seemed to float rather than walk. The largest of the adults, clearly the pack leader, stepped forward. His eyes were ancient and wise, holding depths of intelligence that made Danny feel very small. But when those eyes fell on the 6 cubs, they filled with such pure love and relief that Danny felt tears spring to his own eyes. "My children," the pack leader said, his voice a deep rumble that Danny felt in his bones. "We have searched the stars for you. We feared you were lost forever." The cubs rushed forward, but not before each one gently touched Danny with their paws, as if thanking him for bringing them home. They surrounded their parents, purring and chirping with joy, their musical voices filling the docking bay with celebration. Danny started to back away, feeling like he was intruding on a private family moment. But Little Boss broke away from the reunion and trotted back to him. She nudged him forward with her massive head, clearly wanting him to meet her parents properly. The pack leader turned his attention to Danny, and for a moment the human felt like he was being examined by the force of a hurricane. Then, to everyone's amazement, the massive alien lowered his head in what was clearly a gesture of respect. "Danny Blake of the humans," the pack leader said. "I am Kethvar, elder of the Silver Wind Pack. My children have shared their memories with me. I have seen how you found them lost and afraid, how you offered them food when they were hungry, comfort when they were scared, and protection when they were threatened." "I just did what anyone would do," Danny said, feeling overwhelmed by the moment. "No," Kethvar replied firmly. "You did what very few would do. You saw children where others saw monsters. You offered kindness where others offered only fear. Among the Zarathi, there is no greater honor than the protection of cubs. You have earned the title of Pack Friend, the highest honor we can bestow on another species." The other adult Zarathi moved forward, and Danny realized he was surrounded by creatures that could end his life with a casual swipe of their claws. But instead of threat, he felt only warmth and acceptance. "There is more," Kethvar continued. "Little Boss has told us of the terrible things that were done to them before you found them. They were caged and studied like animals, treated as specimens rather than as the sentient beings they are." Danny glanced toward the observation windows where he knew Dr. Klicktar and the other scientists were watching. "They didn't know," he said. "The researchers thought your children were dangerous predators. They were just trying to understand them." "Perhaps," Kethvar acknowledged, "but ignorance does not excuse cruelty. However, you have shown us that not all beings in this galaxy are the same. Your kindness has prevented what could have been a tragedy for both our species." "What do you mean?" Danny asked. Kethvar's expression grew grave. "When we detected our children's distress calls, we came prepared for war. We expected to find them tortured or dead. We were ready to destroy this station and everyone on it in revenge. But instead, we found them healthy and happy, protected by a friend who saw their true nature." The implications of those words sent a chill through everyone listening. The Zarathi could have easily destroyed Meridian Station and everyone on it. The only thing that had prevented a massacre was Danny's simple act of kindness. "Because of you, Danny Blake, the Zarathi and humanity shall be allies," Kethvar declared. "We offer your species the gift of our knowledge and protection. Any human who travels the stars will be considered a friend of the Zarathi." Little Boss trotted over to Danny one more time and pressed something into his hand. It was small and warm, pulsing with a gentle light. Danny looked down to see what appeared to be a crystalline pendant on a silver chain. "A communication device," Kethvar explained. "It will allow you to speak with our children as they grow. They will not forget their pack friend, and neither will we." The cubs lined up in front of Danny, each one gently touching him with their paws in what was clearly a goodbye gesture. Danny knelt down and hugged each one, not caring that any of them could have crushed him easily. "Be good, you guys," he whispered. "Grow up strong and smart, and remember that there are friends out here among the stars." As the Zarathi family prepared to leave, Kethvar turned back to Danny one last time. "You called our children good babies," he said, and Danny could hear the amusement in his voice. "This is a phrase we will remember. When our cubs misbehave, we shall remind them to be good babies, as the wise human Danny taught them." The Zarathi shuttle lifted off gracefully, carrying the reunited family back to their ship. As the massive vessel prepared to depart, it transmitted a final message to the station. To all beings on this station, Kethvar's voice echoed through the corridors. Know that you are under the protection of the Zarathi. Any who threaten you will answer to us. This is our gift to you, in honor of the human who showed kindness to our young. As the ship disappeared into the depths of space, Danny stood alone in the docking bay, holding the crystal pendant. He was just a maintenance worker who had done what felt right. He had seen scared children instead of dangerous monsters, and that simple act of perception had changed everything. Dr. Martinez approached him, her face filled with wonder. Danny, do you realize what you've accomplished? You've just secured humanity's first major alien alliance. Danny looked down at the pendant, which pulsed warmly in his palm. Somewhere out there, 6 cubs he had called good babies were traveling home with their family, safe and loved. That was worth more than any alliance or reward. I just helped some kids who were lost, Danny said quietly. Anyone would have done the same thing. But as he walked back to his quarters, Danny knew that wasn't true. Sometimes the most important thing in the universe was simply seeing others as they truly were, rather than as what fear and misunderstanding made them appear to be. In his pocket, the crystal pendant pulsed with gentle warmth, a reminder that kindness once given echoed across the stars and came back in ways no one could ever predict. And somewhere in the depths of space, 6 alien cubs carried with them the memory of a human who had called them good babies and meant it with all his heart.